Next question is again comparison between two thinkers. Identify the similarities and dissimilarities between Marx's theory of alienation and Durkheim's theory of anomie. Again, UPSC 2014 question. So UPSC always aims at, there will be descriptive questions also, but analytical in nature. If somebody asks you alienation separately, it's very easy to write. If somebody asks you anomie separately, it's very easy to write. But the real test here is, can you compare both the things? Can you identify similarities between these two concepts and also tell differences between these two concepts? That is the real test. So whenever you see any two thinkers, they are discussing similar things, you have to create a comparison chart, or you have to see, is there any overlap between two concepts? And with this, what happens is clarity also comes in. I've told you already that when you compare two things, you have a lot of clarity also that this particular thing, this has to be skipped. This concept doesn't mean these things, right? Anyhow, coming back. So again, introduction, both Karl Marx and Emile Durkheim grappled with the discontentment of modernity, but with different point of view. Both of them, right? Anomie and alienation were kind of a negative outcome of your modern society. So both of them saw it as a outcome of modernity, but with different point of view. So you can write this as an introduction. Now first we will see what are the similarities. Similarities also you can write in a table. Right? Just write one point. So similarity is modernity at the context. Both the problems which they are discussing, alienation and anomie, they exist in the same time scale, right? In the modernity, as a byproduct of modernity. It's not that Durkheim is talking about your slave or probably in the Renaissance period or any other previous European history time. He's talking about modern times, and Durkheim is also discussing the same topic in modern times. So that is one similarity. Their study in which timeline they are doing, that is overlapping in nature, right? Then they are talking about individual connection, right? Both of them, they have this sense of disconnectedness, right? And one other thing which you can do in this question is, for introduction, you can start with definition also. That Marx defines your alienation as this, whereas Durkheim describes it as this. You can either reserve it for the differences part, but if you want to start, you don't like the introduction, you can start that way also, right? Okay. So both describe the isolation of the individual from the society, and other one is talking about self and production process, but the main similar point is they're talking about isolation. In Marx's view, it is because of the production process, right? Where there is no control, that the work is very monotonous. For Durkheim, also it is a form of disconnectedness, but because norms are not clear, rapid social change is happening, right? But here you don't need to discuss that difference, but you can just write that both of them are talking about isolation of the individual, right? How they are seeing the emergence of this isolation, that is different. That you can discuss in the difference part. But both of them are talking about individual connection. Then both of them are talking about a moral crisis, right? It's a crisis of meaning which you derive from life. Crisis because of the modernity which has changed things, right? So there is a moral crisis which is present in the society. Both of them are trying to study it from a different point of view with different terms, but they're talking about the same thing. Alienation is also a moral crisis, right? Where humans kind of, they stop recognizing them. They don't recognize themselves in the mirror. They're so disconnected from everything. In Anomie also, the change is so rapid. The norms are changing so fast. Old norms are still present. New norms have still not taken birth properly. That you feel the disconnectedness. There is a lack of moral guidance, right? So For both of them, it's a state of moral crisis.
That can be like crisis of roles, class solidarity, and collective consent.
When we're discussing the similarities, you just have to see the parameters are same. Because for Durkheim, it's not about solidarity or it's not about for the Marx, it's not about the solidarity or collective conscious. He doesn't use these words. So probably in differences you can write, right? So these are certain similar areas, and both of them they're discussing about almost similar consequences. Both associate these conditions with some unrest, breakdown of social order, right? The intensity is different for both, but both of them are talking about that there is a social consequence. There will be a social disorder. For Marx, it might be a revolution, but for Durkheim also, there is a breakdown of rules. There is a social disorder. There is a state of normlessness. So the social consequences are almost similar in nature. But how this individual disconnectedness, moral crisis, or this social consequence, how they're emerging and how they are working, what is the reason behind them, what is the solution for these conditions. From here, they differ, right? So next point will be differences. If it's a 10 marker, just differences, you can just write difference and then start discussing it. You don't need to elaborate that. Again, the difference between Marx's concept of alienation and Durkheim's concept of anomie is as follows. Why do you have to waste time? Just write differences. It's more than sufficient and self-explanatory, right? So next is the difference. Again, see the theoretical lens. So with this, one thing should be clear. Whenever there are two theories and you have to talk about differences, first point can be same. Just see from which perspective they are seeing the same particular thing, right? So if there is a question about discuss the difference between the theory of religion given by Karl Marx and theory of religion given probably by Durkheim or Weber. So first point you already know. You write about the theoretical perspective. Marx, it will be conflict. If Durkheim's theory is their functionalist perspective, Weber is your interpretativist, right? So first point is clear, conflict and functionalism. Then core concern. When he is talking about alienation and Durkheim is talking about our anomie, what is the core concern here? What they are worried about? Here he is worried about the exploitation in capitalism. Durkheim is worried about the moral deregulation. There are no norms in the society. Right? Normlessness is there. Which takes us to next question. Parameter. What is the cause of this? For Durkheim, it is private property, division of labor, surplus value, capital, your class exploitation, class polarization. All these things, in the end, they will lead to alienation of the worker, right? For Durkheim, anomie is due to rapid social change. When old norms are changing, but they still exist in some form or the other, not fully, but some form. And new norms, they are still emerging, right? So there is a period of transition where there is a lack of clarity because the change happens so quickly. So this phase or period of transition is a period of normlessness, lack of moral guidance that will lead to anomie. So the causes both of them give, they are very different in nature. Then nature, or you can say feature of anomie or alienation. Here it is economic and existential, your disconnection, estrangement, purposelessness is there, powerlessness is there, right? That is the feature of alienation. Here there is a breakdown of societal norms, right? There is a sense of being lost because there are no norms to guide you. Right? Now, alienation. What is the affected group? Right? Alienation affected group is the worker class. Anomie as a concept affects the entire society. There is not one group he's talking about in Anomie. It's a general breakdown of norms. But when Marx is talking, alienation is limited to the capitalist workers. Or even if he talks about alienation in previous mode, it is related to one group of people. He's not talking about entire society, because in the hierarchy, whoever is the master or the lord or the capitalist, they don't undergo this sense of alienation. It is only when you are beneath in the power hierarchy that you will be affected. So the affected group for both of them, it is different in nature. Right? Then forms of disconnection, right? There you can give all the stages from process, product, etc. Here he doesn't talks about that, okay, there are different stages. He just telling general that there is a breakdown of that collective conscious, right? Then solution. What solution both of them are giving? One is telling about revolution, one is saying you strengthen the moral regulation. The rules of society should be properly regulated. Bring about proper ethics, morals, right? Whatever norms are not clear, make them clear. And this anomie will end. He is saying you do a revolution, then only alienation will end. Alienation will exist till the time capitalism is there. Only communist mode of production will lead to de-alienation of the work. So solution is very different. Then you conclude that in a sense, Marx, alienation and Durkheim's anomie are two sides of the same modern coin. Right? You can just highlight this, that when they are talking about modernity, modernity is a coin. Both of them are two opposite sides, but of the same modern coin. Together, their ideas continue to eliminate the human cost of unchecked social transformation. Your answer is done. Right? So now from here, takeaway is that whenever there are questions based on difference, think of the definition of that term. General framework I'm telling. What is the cause of something? What are the features? Right? Or you can see what is the theoretical lens of that theory or that term, right? Then probably in certain questions there might be consequences of something, that also you can discuss, right? Then solution of something if they have given, right? And in between there can be other miscellaneous points, right? If they're talking about function of something, that also you can write down, right? Nature of something, that also you can write down, right? Or someone, both of them are talked about modern relevance, that also you can talk about, right? Here you can add the context, right? Sometimes the concept, say for example, religion theory you are discussing. When Durkheim is studying your religion, his context is traditional society, although he is saying same is there for modern society. But his area of study is in the traditional society, right? So the context or the timeline in which both of them are discussing. So these points should be kept in mind, right? You can keep on adding points also. This is not an exhaustive list. And apart from these parameters, there cannot be no differences. There can be, depending upon your question to question. But at least if there is some question, these points will be there for sure, right? Barring one or two, depending upon topic, but you can add at any time if you feel this point of difference can also be there, right? Yes, are we clear how to attempt questions which are talking about differences? always brainstorm through a framework. If you don't have a framework, you will be only able to think 2 points, 3 points at max. When you have a framework in mind, and this will work for JS also. When you have a framework in mind, generating points is very, very easy. Right? Next, we will do a lot of things when we will do stratification in society. There will be different theories of stratification. We'll do power, different theories of power. There also we will compare different theories of power. Religion also. One theory we have already done. Weber's theory of power, Weber's theory of religion we'll do today or tomorrow. So for all these theories, you should know what are the basic parameters and you should know how to compare with other thinkers. And when you compare with other thinker, your understanding about that theory becomes very clear. You know what this theory stands for and what are not the points which the thinker has tried to convey through this theory. Right? Are we clear here? So if any one of you has not attempted the test, now we have discussed solution of 1A and 1B. Tomorrow we'll discuss about 2A and 2B. That's very simple. It was very straightforward question. But in case, because just 22 people have given test, right? So whoever is left, try to now write it. Now you know the solution. I'll share the solution also. Now try to see if you can put it down in words, right? And who have already written it, try to do a self-evaluation apart from the evaluation which I will do obviously.